Hello and good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Dixon, and welcome to the Ordinary People Show. Today, I am super excited to be welcoming a Canadian icon. Did you know that there are giants living amongst us, viewers? Well, we have one with us today. Today's interview guest is none other than the one and only Dr. Jean Augustine. Welcome, Dr. Jean. Welcome to the Ordinary People Show.
Well, thank you, Jacqueline. Thanks for asking me to participate.
It's always a pleasure whenever I have an opportunity to converse with you. You're one of those individuals in my life that I can talk to for hours upon hours because there's never a dull moment in the conversation. And the information that you share is just so valuable for personal as well as professional reasons. So I would like my viewers of the Ordinary People Show to get an appreciation for you, in the way that I do. So we'll start off with a very ordinary person type of question. Who is Dr. Jean Augustine?
Well, that's an easy question to answer because in order to do so, I have to go back to Happy Hill, St. George's, Grenada, and say that Jean Augustine, immigrant to Canada, came to Canada in 1960, 65 years ago, came with the enthusiasm of someone who wants to explore new venues, new territories, new places, and at the same time wanting an opportunity to reach one's full potential and recognizing that as a small island, the opportunities for post-secondary education was just not there, and the opportunities to think about career and what one can do in a sphere where academia was really part of my hope. I wanted to be a school teacher. I wanted to be an academic, and I wanted to make sure that I made my mark on the world.
Fantastic. And that quest brought you to Canada.
Yes.
And at the time when you arrived to Canada, oh my goodness, so many decades ago, Canada was a completely different landscape at that time. I hear you often talk about what has happened since your arrival. We're talking a time period where no Charter of Rights, no labor laws, none of that was happening at that particular time. What was that experience like arriving in this foreign country at that time?
Well, arriving in a country, I'm not too sure that I would say foreign because I came from a Commonwealth country. I came with a British passport. Grenada was not an independent country at the time. Most of the islands in the Caribbean weren't. And so we were all British citizens. I was also an avid reader, Jacqueline. I read everything there was in the library in Grenada. And I read all kinds of information, both historical and geographic, So I knew about Canada in that sense before I landed here. Granted, I didn't know about how you maneuvered the subway, how you maneuvered the money, how you maneuver things like the telephone, etc. That comes with being in the country and learning this. But it was also a country where, having read about the principles and what Canada put out in the world, that it was a mosaic. It was a mosaic of nations and countries and people. And so I felt I had to be part of that mosaic. And so I was looking for opportunities to participate, opportunities to make sure that this fair and just and inclusive society that I was now joining, that there was place for me and place for people who looked like me. Because as I looked around, sure, we had a Bill of Rights, but we didn't have a charter, which came about in 1982 when we repatriated the Canadian Constitution and amended it with a Charter of Rights and Freedom. We did not have the declaration that we are a multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious society. We had no human rights code so that the things that were done, the microaggression, the prejudice, the discrimination, there were just nothing in the system where one can go and complain and get some redress so that the landlord could say it's for rent. But we don't rent to you people because we had no landlord and tenant act. We had nothing that you can hold a landlord to in terms of uh, a code of behavior. The same with police community relations in those early days. What I saw were policemen. Actually, to be a policeman, you had to have height and weight requirements. And the same with school boards. I did not see trustees or principals in the system, and I wanted to be an educator. I wanted to be in the system, and I didn't have the models there to say I can see faces that look like mine. And so the early days were the days of activism and advocacy and ensuring that we were holding the society and those who represented us in various aspects of political life and social life uh, would move with us to ensure changes were made in the society. And so when I see where we are, 60, 65 years later, I think we've come a long way, Jacqueline, but we're not there yet. It's kind of like a work in progress. We're getting there. We're getting there. And oftentimes we see things that are setbacks. And what's happening in our world today, we see the setbacks, we see the conversations that we had and we thought we had completed and we had more or less put a lid on it. We see it all blowing up again. And we see a man with a yellow hair and a Sharpie pen be making changes not only to his constitution and but all the rights of people all around the world are affected and by the reverberation of things that are coming out um, of the United States. And so I feel that as Canadians, having been in the struggle over these 65 years, that we have to hold firm to what we believe. We have to hold firm to the diversity which make us who we are, which is the boast of the world. We have to make sure that we treat others with the respect that we say we owe to each other, and that we acknowledge that people come from different parts to join us in this country, to become Canadians, to be nation builders with us. And we have to hold on to that despite the waves that we see occurring around us.
It's like when you talk, it's like poetry to my ears, and I'm sure that my viewers are now getting an appreciation for why, I see just so much value in you, and I appreciate your time and energy and effort. Now, you came with the intention to be a part of the Canadian fabric and to bring whatever value you could offer to the Canadian society. You came with that intention, and that's a beautiful thing. So you came with that intention, and you were very intentional in the things that you did after arriving, working your way towards becoming a principal of a public school, and then from there on, you decided to throw your hat into the political ring and run for office. Can you tell us briefly about that decision and what that experience was like?
Well, Jacqueline, I didn't come with one foot in Grenada and one foot in Canada. I came to Canada. I made the decision that I was coming to Canada to make a life for myself. And I made sure that when I came, I looked around for others who were doing the advocacy, who were nation building, who were making Canada better, who were holding the feet of decision makers and legislators and others and policy makers to what Canadian society is, what it said it is, and what it could be. And so from the very beginning, I involved myself. And so when I see other people, some people saying the other day, someone, I don't vote, or I'm going back, I don't have time for this or that, or I want more money in my pocket, or I want whatever. I regret the fact that they do not realize the importance of being a nation builder, the importance of having a society where social justice and where one can build together with neighbors and friends and have the workplace and the marketplace and every place in the society what we want it to be. And so I wanted to be an educator. And so I started with Teachers College, worked my way through University of Toronto, BA, OISE, University of Toronto, MEd, etc., and worked my way through the system. Classroom teacher, vice principal, principal. Each time, Jacqueline, waiting my turn, because it was not easy in the society for a Black woman, an immigrant woman, a woman with an accent, Caribbean, to be elevated in those days. I'm sure many women will tell you about the struggle for promotional opportunities to be in the society. And so I moved in various avenues and boardrooms. I was appointed to different things. I made my voice heard together with others on those social justice issues that would make this the kind of country it is. And so when I look back, or when I speak about those days, and I think if you would permit me to make some reference to Susan Eng, who just passed away. She was one of those people from the Chinese community who was very much an advocate with us in the Black community as we worked on a lot of issues around the media, around the faces of people who should be and ought to be in the media. And nowadays, when you look, you turn every one of our stations on, you see all the faces of Canada there. But in the 60s, the 70s, the struggle to get a face of color was really one that had to be strategically and otherwise worked as activists to make sure that happened.
That's fantastic. And you know what? We have so much to discuss about your decision to become an advocate. And we're going to pick that up right after our first commercial break. And I just want to say to all of my viewers, do not go anywhere. We will be right back with the one and only Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to RogersTV.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at RogersTV.com.
Welcome back to the Ordinary People Show. Excited to be sharing with you today, ladies and gentlemen, a Canadian icon, the one and only Dr. Jean Augustine. We're going to pick up the conversation where we left off. So, Dr. Jean, we were talking about the fact that you came very intentionally to Canada to bring value, and you worked your way through the educational system and eventually found yourself in the political arena, in which case you made such an impact. Can you quickly tell us about the impact that you feel that you brought to the political landscape here in Canada?
Well, this is a long story, but at the same time, in 1992, when I was approached to enter politics or to be in formal politics, because prior to that, I think everything that every one of us does in the arena is really a political act. And so I was constantly advocating, and then, it came up to uh, often, why don't you run? Why don't you run? I was head of Metropolitan Toronto Housing at the time, MTHA, it was called before amalgamation. And as head of Metro Toronto Housing Authority, one saw the needs in the community, the need for housing, the need for opportunities for young people, the challenges that there were at the time. And so I was speaking up on those issues when I was always being challenged, why don't you run? And of course, when I did make the decision to run, that's a whole story as to all the parties approaching me, etc., and my decision as to how I was going to go. Um, I won in Etobicoke Lakeshore. In Etobicoke Lakeshore, where I was a principal in one or two of the schools in the area, and where I felt that I could best represent. The people of Etobicoke Lakeshore, I must say, embraced me because I won by large numbers, beating the Conservative as well as later on the Preston Manning and his what was the name of his party again? At the time. And so I walked into the Parliament of Canada as the first African Canadian woman to enter that chamber. And it was something else. Nobody had left breadcrumbs for me to follow. I didn't have a mentor that says, this is how you do this. And so I had to fall back on what I learned. I had to fall back on my past experiences. And I had to be really vigilant, at the same time, be very questioning, and bring all the transferable skills that I had from education and from being in the administration as a school principal and supervisor, bring that to the role of MP. I started right at the top, parliamentary secretary to the prime minister. At the same time, I was looking for a place or a niche, a gap, those issues. I didn't want to go down the road that everybody else was going down. At the time, the discussion was very much like it is today. Softwood lumber, ice cream, yogurt, and boneless beef. Those were the trade issues at the time. But then reflecting on where I could make a difference, not only for myself, my children, my community, the issue of what I saw missing in the education system. And that was the lack of information, the lack of modules that spoke about Indigenous peoples and their relationship with the Crown, that spoke to African Canadians and their coming to Canada and their contributions, etc. And so I worked my way into ensuring that I had motions that gave us Black History Month in Canada in February, and also a motion that brought the famous 5 statue on Parliament Hill. And so those are 2 huge living symbols that will continue simply because I had the gonads to push on those issues, despite what my colleagues and what was happening in the Parliament of Canada at the time. It was not easy as a Black woman walking into a place built by men to do men's work. And so I had to find my way around. The community was not such as it is today. We didn't have very strong organizations that were supporting this Black woman who was in Parliament. And so Ovid Jackson from Owen Sound, who had been the mayor of Owen Sound for many, many years, Ovid Jackson and myself were the two Black people, the two African identified people in the Parliament of Canada. And so it was uphill. And I think when we look at the door, I should say that I opened and we see the number of people who are now, the brown and black faces that are now in the Parliament of Canada, I think we recognize that whatever, I made some progress and I had some doors open so that the way I conducted myself and responded to the issues on hand and worked with colleagues and moved issues forward, that there was nothing left behind that said a Black woman cannot do this or a Black man couldn't do this.
Outstanding. And we thank you for that. We thank you for opening the doors. We thank you. I personally thank you for allowing me to stand on your shoulders in my career path today. But let's talk about today. You know, let's talk about current day. What is happening? You look young, you look vibrant.
Jacqueline, I am 50. I have passed.
I
Whatever you were
remember.
about to say. I am now 88 years old.
I know.
And as
I
a
know.
result of 88 years old, I am not only celebrating myself, but I'm celebrating people in the community. So there is a Jean Augustine Award that I will be doing together with Caribbean Tales. Caribbean Tales has a whole roster of films, 49, 50-something films, that will be shown around the same time as TIFF, September the 3rd to the 13th. We'll show some of Caribbean Tales, films and documentaries. We'll speak about the importance of community entertainment. We'll also have an opportunity to salute Wendy Jones. And Wendy Jones is a young woman who started the steel band playing in so many schools in Toronto. And the steel band is now known throughout on account of the work that Wendy and others have done. And so I'm acknowledging that panelist on my birthday, passing the baton to her with an award on my birthday. And then there would be the biggest celebration of those 88 years. So I hope the community will all come out, that they will celebrate me, they'll celebrate Wendy, they'll celebrate Caribbean Tales, they'll buy the tickets to Caribbean Tales, and they will ensure that as a fundraiser, we have some money for the Jean Augustine Center for Young Women's Empowerment. And Jacqueline, you've supported that center with donations over the years, and I thank you for that. And I thank all those out there who know of the work of the center. If you don't, go to jeanaugustincenter.ca and all the information is there. 300 girls or more come, age 7 to 17. And we work on 4 platforms. And we're very pleased with the progress that the young people are making. So apart from that, I'm also very much engaged in working with Dr. Rhonda McQueen, who is the first Black woman in 188 years of Victoria University on the campus of the University of Toronto. They have a Black woman who is now the president and vice chancellor of that university. She is qualified in the area of AI and a brilliant, brilliant woman of Caribbean background. And so as she's doing her work at Victoria, she's putting together a professorship in my honor. And I'm so very pleased that this is happening. So that professorship is going to be looking at education as a transformative way of developing community, developing the individual, developing the sense. In other words, not looking at education as I was taught when I came through the system, but looking at education in today's world. So
Amazing.
there is that. There is the chair, the transformative professorship. There is the Jean Augustine Center for Young Women. And at the same time, I would love to have a huge hub in the west end of the city where there is nothing more or less happening, for a community hub where we can have an artist in residence where all of my artifacts and achievement and others could be put up for young people to come in, teachers to bring their young people in and have a look around and see what's going on, and at the same time recognize that partnerships, collaboration, and community building must happen if we are to work towards and reach that fair and just and equitable and inclusive society.
Wow. Couldn't have said it better myself. What an exciting schedule of events that will be taking place at your birthday celebration, in addition to and collaboration with Caribbean Tales. So much happening, and with as much as you are revered in the society, in today's society, you give back. You find the time to give back, and I cannot emphasize enough as we wrap up today's show how much you give back to society, how much you've given back to not-for-profit organizations like one of the organizations that I run, and how much you give back on a personal one-on-one basis to nurturing and mentoring so many of our community leaders. And we just want to thank you for that. And I know that I'm going to be at that birthday party with bells on.
I hope that we can have a full house, because I have attended everybody's events and supported everybody's event. And this is really a fundraiser, both for Caribbean Tales and for the Jean Augustine Center. So I want everybody to come out. It's $100. It starts at 7:30, and it's at Harborfront Theater Center. Harborfront Theater Center, September 6th, a Saturday, 7:30, and $100. And we have to call to get our tickets. We know that at the last minute our community comes out for the ticket, but we want to make sure that we sell a full house and that we have the necessary finger food and entertainment.
We will, and we'll make sure that we share that with all of our viewers. Dr. Jean, I just want to thank you as we wrap up the show today. Not enough time, of course, but we appreciate you. And I want to thank you for joining us on the Ordinary People Show today. And congratulations one more time. Happy birthday.
Thank you, and thank you. All the very best to you, Jacqueline. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you to all our viewers today for tuning into the Ordinary People Show, where ordinary people are doing extraordinary things. See you next time. Cheers.